Welcome back to the Sunraysia Daily office. It's 8:30 on federal election night and we are covering the seats of Malee and Farrer, and it's looking like we might have a bit more information at this point, particularly with the seat of Farrer. So I'll start there. Now Susan Lee has, even as more booths come in, even as Albury booths come in, she is continuing to maintain a first preference vote of about 50%, which is obviously, you know, if the Vola votes are counted and she's above 50, she wins, let alone the need for preferences to be added on top of that. So it's looking like she's tracking for a win there. We had the ABC election analyst Anthony Green on the tally not too long ago saying that Kevin Mack, who's on just over 20% of first preferences, he said that, look, Kevin Mack cannot win with 20% of first preferences. It doesn't matter what any of the other votes achieve below him, that it's just not possible for him to win from that position. So it is looking very much like Susan Lee will retain the seat of Farrer for the Liberals, and but obviously with a bit more voting to come, as well as early voting, which we haven't seen any of as far as I'm aware. So that's still to come. In both seats, about a third of voters, or a little more than a third of voters in both seats voted early. So that's probably the one asterisk to put on it that is still to come. But at this stage, even as more booths come in, Susan Lee has seemingly shored up her position. So that's where the seat of Farrer is at. In Malee, we've basically it's stayed pretty similar, the numbers, the percentages, which means that, so the coalition, what we were looking for from them is, were they going to have a combined Nationals and Liberals first preference vote of more than 45? If they're able to do that, they're likely safe. And it's looking like that's, at least from what we've seen so far, that's happening. So Ann Webster, I'm told, just has sunk below 30% of first preferences, but has mostly just remained about 30 or just above 30. Meanwhile, Liberal candidate Serge Petrovic has been bouncing between 15 and 16% of first preferences. So combined, they had about 46 when I checked just a few moments ago. So that would seem to put them in a winning position. And obviously with Ann Webster, the Nationals candidate, having the higher first preference count, you would assume the preferences flow to her, and that puts her in the box seat to win the seat of Malee. However, again, the same sort of disclaimer there. We have early votes still to come, and we're not quite sure with so many early votes this year compared to previous years what effect that has. The other complicating factor with Malee is that there are more preferences to grapple with. It's not clear who the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth candidate actually is going to be. The AEC are giving us a two-candidate preferred vote between Labor and the Nationals. Whether that stays that way, I'm not too sure. You'll have to remember that the independents have preferenced each other on their how to vote cards, so their votes are likely to accumulate and probably overtake Labor in the count. So, and then of course Serge Petrovic with his 15-16%, is he the one that gets into the top two? That's another factor that will have to be worked out. So probably still a bit to work through for the seat of Malee for now, but at this stage it's pointing to a Nationals retain through Ann Webster, their candidate. And yeah, as for the performance of the independents, who I said that their preferences will accumulate, Ray Kingston, the former Yarra Shire Mayor, has 10.9% of first preferences, so he's the leading independent, ahead of Jason Modica, the Mildura Deputy Mayor, who's got 9.5%. So plus Cecilia Moore, she's a bit lower on 2.6% of the vote. So potentially they, whether it's Ray or whether it's Jason, one of them could end up with a 20% sort of vote to work with. If those preferences flow together, which might put them above Labor, which would complicate things. But like we said at the start, if the coalition can get to 45% of first preferences, the chance that they actually get to 50 without the need for complicated counts between everybody else is increased, and that's what's happening at the moment. So it's on track for a Nationals retain in Malee at this point. So that's the latest at 8:30. Remember to go to sunraysiadaily.com.au. We have got the live tallies ticking over, and you can follow the numbers and any other updates that we've got. We'll throw them on there, especially as far as Farrer goes, because we could be close to hearing that being called, not just on the ABC, but various people might start to call that seat. It's looking like it's heading that way. And yeah, any other updates we have, sunraysiadaily.com.au, and we'll probably see you again in about an hour.